Hi, this is a companion video to the video I did on selecting probiotics, which I basically described the mental, the academic issues of how to select probiotics and the different ways of doing it. I'm going to do a bit more practical today. I'm going to actually walk through and do this example, and we're going to start with the idea of constipation. Constipation, you phone up a doctor and he may well say, okay, take a probiotic, and that may be all they say, may not even give the name of a probiotic to take. So, of cases that may. So, the fallback for many people is going over to some of these things like ChatGPT, etc. Here is, I ask the question, which one does it do? And it comes in, and not only that, but it actually gives a link to it, and chances are that the links may well subsidize the person. If you're dealing with a naturopath, it's very common for the naturopath to suggest a probiotic, one which they have in their store, which they sell, and generally sell much higher price than you can get elsewhere. So in that case, there's the classic example of conflict of interest. So I go through here, and in this case, it makes claims, specific strains, okay, which is nice. When you go to the actual product, you may find that it doesn't cite strains at all. In fact, most of these don't supply the strains. So we basically have hallucinations from the large language model. So that's the problem number one. So that's one of the basic problems. And go to a different one, and it does goes and drops them and gives you 5 of them. It doesn't tell you. The question was, what is the best? It doesn't tell you what the best is. It gives you 5 of them. It cites human clinical studies, and in this case, guess what? It actually gives the strains. And one doesn't, one does, except for this one, it doesn't give the strain of the polarity. So it's 4 out of 5 giving the strains, but it doesn't say anything. And it does go and identifies where it's found in, but often some of these things, it's just probiotic and there's a bunch more in it. So it doesn't give you nice, clean, single strain probiotics. So now if you want to do it even better, not just working with these, you can go over to microbiome prescription and type in constipation, and it'll give there, and you'll notice that it gives 122 studies are cited, and it goes and gives you all of the one there. Now, this one is a bit better because what does it say? It doesn't say a study shows that it helps. It shows the number of studies. 20 studies here, 16 studies there, 15 there. In other words, by doing this, you get a ranking of which ones have the greatest confidence. Simply because it's being studied more often and demonstrated more and more often, chances are it is a real solid bet to deal with constipation. Nice and simple. Again, the site is there, and it's just you look up research probiotic with strains available retail. It's there. So that gives you probably the best one is Rotary. Click here, and you see who there you have the study, so you can go and see. For example, you have explosive constipation with some other symptoms, and you may be able to get better matchup that way. But that is the second way, or probably third way of doing it. Just going there. All of these are without having a microbiome test, which for some people is where you come desperately looking for it and go there. You don't have time to do a test. Go off, get the results, come back. 6 weeks pass, constipation may have disappeared by that. I'm using constipation mainly as an example. Now, if you have chronic constipation, you try the probiotics and they haven't worked, then you are off to probably wanting to do a microbiome test. And with the microbiome test, you can come in and we can have fun. We can come in here and we can do in symptoms and we don't I thought this one may have somewhere in there. The probably let's do nausea, which often happens with constipation. There you can do more, and now it will go off and calculate things to do based on published medical studies. Identifies the likely the bacteria associated with it. There are 11 of them. It goes down here and gives a suggestion of things to do. But since we are focusing on probiotics only, we are going to go up to the consensus report, which allows us to filter on probiotics, which should be in alphabetical order there. And now you have the probiotics which are computed to be the most likely ones to help. And you can go there and you could do a cross-reference from one to the other. Many of these probiotics have not been tested for constipation. So you have some bit of fun there. One of the items which we did see was Rotary. And there we have, and in this particular case we see a negative number, which suggests that for you and the bacteria you're dealing with, it may not be less. It may solve the constipation, or actually in this case we're talking about nausea, but it may cause other symptoms to get worse. That's part of the balancing act. So that's sort of the quick way to do it. And now if we just go back to probiotics, you see the best ones, and now you go, of course, go back to the other one and see if something like Felicum is on the other list, and proceed there. And do we have Felicum? And it's not there. So we do have the fact that we have a little bit of hit and miss. We have some studies which cover some probiotics, generally one with a commercial interest, and we have computation based on bacteria shift for no particular condition like nausea there, but we don't have glorious things. Now, we could also go back to here and we can go in and using PubMed studies, which brings things in, and do we have constipation in the list? We don't have a good amount of constipation. The sample I grabbed may not have been the best one. We do have let's take a look at something like bad breath that goes with it. And now we can just go and do that one, get suggestions, and we have the same thing, identifies the bacteria based on medical studies, and we can again go over to consensus report, click probiotics, and see it. Oh, and we see Paracassi, which is what the acute is, which is on the other list. So we sort of have a nice agreement, a matchup between the two there, and not only like the cases. So we do have agreement with some things where both of them are agreed. Having agreement is sweet because it means the odds of having the right thing goes up, rather than randomly trying things. You're going to go for things with the highest odds. Instead of saying, hey, I'll bet on a pair of dice rolling both ones, Or are you going to bet on a dice with so that the sum of the numbers on the dice is 7? Well, trying to get snake eyes or 2 1s is a relatively low odds. And what I'm trying to do is have you make a bet on snake eyes. Sorry, not snake eyes, but on a rule of 7 coming up, which is the most probable. And what we have is we have this way. One is looking at metabolic shifts, which is I discussed, which is estimating what metabolites are being produced, which are being produced in excess or insufficiency. Flip over to the probiotics and seeing what we estimate they are consuming or producing and trying to do a balancing that way. So if we click here, and we'll just go in, what we're going to do is we're going to reduce it to probiotics only. And we can compute a little bit more involved computations this time, and it identifies which compounds you're high. You're saying the 100th percentile, you're more than anybody else, and ones that are low. And now it goes and enumerates out the probiotics which have the best chance of doing it. And what often happens is one really sticks out, like E. coli, Mutaflora, or Semaphore 2 is one, and I will actually, we've got a couple of the Mutaflora, a couple of the E. coli probiotics sitting there. So that is one more way, which of course is saying, how many more ways are there? Okay, we go back here and we are there and we'll do the same thing. This one will only produce probiotics and it does it in a slightly different method. And now it goes and identifies the probiotics there, and then down the bottom identifies which ones to do. And guess what? Mutaflora and Semaphore 2 both are E. coli probiotics, are the ones which are most likely to do. If you go down to Bacillus casei, we have all of them there. So we have a different way of suggesting. And again, these are ranked order by the expected amount of benefits. Okay. You probably are getting pretty close to getting saturated with things. Now, last way is available on almost all of the, let's go back. Okay, there it is. If you go down, you see experimental probiotics suggest using taxa R2 sites. We have 5 bacteria which are selected. Using those 5, we go over and it goes and calculates which one is best. And in this case, none of them are best because every single one impacts the wrong one. In this case, everything is too high. And most of the time, probiotics increases things that are low and increases high. Very rarely do you do. And if we go over here and we click here for probiotics, and we see, we have only one probiotic which is beneficial, but it is one which is still in development, it's not available retail, which is unfortunate, which is why it was on the prior lists. And was probably some of the other bacteria, it has a negative impact, which is, so that's not necessarily the best. Let's go back and do it one more time. And we're home page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take a different sample here and just go and do the novice, get suggestions. And again, we're not really too concerned about these suggestions. We want to focus on these. What do we come up with? Fingers crossed. Here we have particular ones here. We have atypical showing there, and we have them. Some of them are available retail, some of them are not. And you have them all nice listed. The advantage is you have a another way of waiting. So, long story, which you probably have exhausted, there are many, many ways of picking probiotics. The preferred way are one where you get a weight as into the value. The weight could be here, computed here. It could be priorities here from suggestion lists. It could be also, oh, let me misplace it, by the number of studies. Regardless which way you want to, the sweetest way of getting the one with the absolute best odds of helping is to look at all three of them and see what all three of them agrees on. Something that all three agrees on has the absolute best odds of working. Depends if you want to put in the effort. Basically, it's just a matter of sitting down and comparing them. In time, I may be kind to you and do a automatic reconciliation between all of them to make life better, but at the moment you have to start doing them individually. But it gives you the mechanism by which you can select ideally the best probiotics for what your challenges is, either by diagnosis or using a microbiome sample test. Again, this first way, which is by number of studies, doesn't require a microbiome test, so that's often the first thing. And you can basically type, it's an open text search, so you can type in just about anything you want. You can type in, for example, if I can spell it correctly, let's try to do fibril and see. We have, okay. Okay, let's go and I'm just going to go and we have 64 entries. I'm going to go to another page. Okay, that's there. We have a odd condition there. We just type that there. And we have everything known about it, and we see two different retirees are being studied for it, and you have something to work for it. So at this point in time, I'll shut up. Main purpose was to show you how to select probiotics. Everyone shows you the rationale for sorting them. Bottom line is, if you want the best odds, compare them, and where everybody is in agreement, go with those. If you have disagreement, then put those aside. You want to go as your first choice ones which everybody agrees with. If one doesn't have an opinion, then that's fine. Then get as many as possible agreeing. So with that, I'll end this little